The Deputy Minister of Electricity and Energy, Samantha Graham-Maré, says the transition to nuclear energy will need financial commitment. Graham-Maré made the remarks on the sidelines of the G20 Energy Transition Working Group's third technical meeting in Sun City in the Northwest Province. The top 20 economies of the world have gathered to present their stance on nuclear energy as the world tries to mitigate the effects of climate change. This is ahead of the ministerial meeting that will take place in October before the handover for the G20 Leaders Summit set to take place the following month. SABC News reporter Debogo Pakedi has more.
We are coming from Sun City in Rustenburg in the Northwest Province, where the Department of Electricity and Energy, of course, we see the G20 Energy Transition Working Group taking place here, where we see the Minister of the Department as well as the Deputy Minister leading these discussions. G20 member states are here to also present what they would want the G20 President Summit come November to focus on, more so when we look at the nuclear energy. I just want to invite the Deputy Minister of the Department of Electricity and Energy, Samantha Graham-Maré. Thank you so much for your time. I just want us first to just touch on the purpose of these meetings, kind of conversations that you are having as G20 member states.
So essentially we started this year as part of our presidency. We have a theme for the general presidency, but for the Energy Transition Working Group we have three priorities. So we're trying to get consensus on having access to affordable electricity for everybody. We're trying to get consensus on a just energy transition, and we're finally trying to get consensus on an all-African approach where we have integration between us and the rest of Africa in terms of energy. So those are the three priorities for this year's G20, us hosting it. And we keep saying to everybody, this is not just about South Africa. We're the only country represented from the whole of Africa on the G20, but this is an African G20. We need to make sure that the rest of Africa benefits from what happens behind these closed doors. So this is about negotiating outcomes, finding legacy projects that we can adopt to take forward post the G20, and then creating partnerships and finding partners that are prepared to support us in our objectives.
Yeah, and then as far as the technologies are concerned, what technologies are you zooming at to ensure that you achieve this?
So we have a net zero carbon goal for 2050 in terms of us, decommissioning coal-fired power stations, making sure that we have green energy. Obviously, that's going to be very difficult. We have 85% of our power is biofuel that we derive from coal. So we are obviously looking at things like renewable energies, wind, solar, but also as part of our renewed approach to nuclear. The whole world is now taking on nuclear as a clean form of energy. We will be looking at nuclear into the future. And then whatever other technologies emerge. This is constantly evolving. It's an exciting industry. It's an exciting space. But for now, our focus, and then potentially also as a transitional fuel, we'll be looking at a bit of gas as well in our energy mix. The idea is that we find an energy mix that creates a stable supply of electricity. We don't want to put South Africa back into load shedding. So whatever we do needs to focus on energy security with a stable supply of electricity as we move towards our decarbonization goals.
Yeah. Speaking of sustainable energy for all, we see South Africa having, been with the nuclear energy for 41 years now. How do you analyze the progress thus far? We have countries like China here, South Korea, Russia, and AU that will also be an ear for other African countries that are yet to tap into this. Just your assessment as to how South Africa has been doing for the past 41 years.
So we are obviously the leading nuclear country on the African continent. We're the only country that currently has nuclear reactors that are operational. So we've been running Koeberg for a number of years. We've just extended Unit 1's life for another 20 years. So that'll be 60 years in total. We are hoping to extend Unit 2's by November this year. We've applied for that. So that'll be another 20 years. And we've just celebrated the 60th birthday of Safari, which is our multi-purpose reactor for research. So we've also extending the life of that because obviously we need to do that. So not only do we have nuclear energy, which is a very small part of the mix, it's only about 5% of our energy mix at this stage, but we're also one of the world's leading producers of radioactive radioisotopes. Our nuclear medicine field is highly regarded around the world. We do a lot of non-energy and non-proliferation nuclear activities. So we still remain one of the foremost countries in terms of nuclear. We were one of the founding members of the International Atomic Energy Agency that oversees nuclear globally. Egypt at the moment is building 4 nuclear reactors, and countries from across Africa are in various developmental phases with regard to nuclear. And hopefully in the next few years we can start looking towards a new build. We're looking at about 10 megawatts of nuclear going forward. But that's 10,000 megawatts, I apologize, 10 gigawatts. But that's obviously something in the long term. It's very expensive initially, but it is the cleanest and cheapest form of power once it's established. And we feel very strongly that nuclear has to be part of our energy mix.
Just the last question, funding for all of this, and how then the impact it has on an ordinary South African who at this point would say, oh, at least today we have electricity, there's no load shedding, other days not. So how then do they come when it comes to all of this?
Look, at the end of the day, we've seen our electricity prices going up. We used to be one of the cheapest power producers in the world. Unfortunately, that has changed, and that's through various historical reasons, which we don't need to go into. We need to find ways of making sure that that we have not only access to electricity, but we have electricity that is affordable. We also need to make sure that it's available. So it doesn't help for us to have all these wonderful energy ideas and nobody can actually get electricity. But it has to be funded somehow, absolutely, as you're asking. So part of these conversations are around how we can leverage funding, how we can get partnerships with countries that can support us or international agencies that can support us. So this is not something we can fund ourselves. It's just too big an ask. But we do feel that there are a lot of opportunities out there. So we're looking at things like for our transmission build out, using private sector, using independent transmission projects, like we've done a lot with the renewable energy side, where we're doing public-private partnerships. So at this stage, we are looking for partnerships with anybody who's willing to come and be part of what we're trying to achieve. And hopefully we can leverage that support into creating an environment where we have affordable, accessible and available electricity for all South Africans.
Thank you so much. That is the Deputy Minister of the Department of Electricity and Energy, on the sidelines of the Energy Transition Working Group. This is the third technical meeting, and of course sustainable energy for all, as she is saying, is just one of the discussions that they will have just with this technical meeting. Different G20 member states are present here. We are still here to monitor the developments